Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we'll be talking about Orisa and her recent changes on the PTR. We'll be comparing her to Rein, as he was also changed to see whether or not she is more viable as an anchor tank than she was before. This is actually a massive subject, so expect further videos exploring some of the concepts I outline here. Just a quick note about the gameplay and the PTR in general, it's actually a strange place to try and get reliable playtesting data. I'm sure many of you have played in what can only be described as meme comps. 6 DPS, why not? Who needs tanks anyway, right? That's not a complaint, it's just the nature of the server. But even with less than hardcore competitive testing, some strengths and weaknesses can still be observed in isolation. The concepts involved are still sound, so let's explore them. Orisa changes. First off, let's cover what's actually changed with Orisa. Let's do the slight nerf to her gun first. So they took her damage down from 12 per shot to 10. So what does this even mean? Functionally it means that it takes 15 to 20 shots depending on headshots to fully kill a squishy instead of the 12 to 16 it used to take. The thing is, Orisa was not a duelist in any sense anyway. More on the importance of that later. Her gun is a sporadic projectile, making her output a very generic sustained type similar to Sombra or the old soldier prior to his buff. This adjustment doesn't change how you approach playing Orisa. In truth, it doesn't change a whole lot, other than to reinforce that her threat does not come from her damage. It does make her damage to large objects like Rein shields less effective, so that's not fantastic, but again, that's not why you'd pick her. Onto her barrier then. Now it is fair to say that having a cooldown reduced from 12 seconds to 8 is significant, and that does make it more comparable to Reinhardt than it was before. Hers is 8 seconds for 900 shielding, and Rein's is about 10 seconds for about 1500, including the delay of 2 seconds, where Rein has to wait for his shield to begin regenerating. So on paper that looks good. The problem comes in that in the meta we're currently in, even Rein, who can simply reposition his barrier by turning it around and aiming it at the relevant threat, can struggle to keep up with the mobility of the multiple threats coming from different directions. Sure, Orisa can be more mobile and adaptive now than she was before, but it still lacks in applicability when everything is diving into you or flanking you from multiple directions. It also hints at a larger problem. If you make her shield amazing to the point where it really competes with Rein, would we end up in some hellish barrier meta? Because remember, teams could take both if they so chose. Shooting shields is no fun for anybody. If the game became about attritionally wearing down all the different barriers in the game, it would be a nightmare to play. As it is now on the PTR, it's better than it was, but Rein's is arguably still better. Plus Rein, actually most of the other tanks, have other things going for them that make them potent, and that's where we're going to be moving on to next. Is Orisa ever scary? A good way to compare Rein and Orisa is to look at what phases or parts of the game they are scary in. Now I've just made the argument that Rein can struggle in the mobility meta, which is true. What is also true, however, is that Rein will always be scary when you're right next to him. That transcends metas and playstyles. Being hit in the face with a giant hammer will always hurt. So will getting pinned, earth shattered, despite its recent height adjustment, and firestruck. The point I'm trying to make is there are situations where Rein is scary by definition. His threat to you never goes away if you're in the range that it applies. Now because Orisa can't duel, and she doesn't have the damage, it can be argued that Orisa is scary only in places where her ult fire becomes a serious risk. Maps and modes where the geometry gives her the opportunity to score an environmental kill on you, or other potential combos like a mini grav. But even then, her ult fire is very slow, and in our opinion, too easily avoided to be genuinely scary. Sure, I've been killed by it, it's happened, but is it reliable enough to genuinely make you afraid? A Roadhog hook is scary in its own right, and can score environmental kills just as easily. Lucio's boop has many other contexts in which it's great, and can also environmentally eliminate you. Anchor or tech. Because she has a wide variety of muted utility in her kit, Orisa is more a tech pick than a core pick, and that's fine by the way. And by tech pick, I mean in the sense that you could pick a hero that has situational or surprise value, a non-standard mode of playing that gives you a way to subvert the traditional play or tactics. Sombra is a tech hero in this way. Sombra cannot duel things really. She chips and finishes off targets, she builds EMP quickly, and she has the movement options through Translocator and Cloak to do that without dying. Orisa's buff to her shield probably does make her better at doing the niche thing she does on the right maps and modes, but it doesn't make her an anchor, and that's the point. It's a matter of expectations. How we should start looking at her is as the Sombra of tanks. Niche, but applicable in the right context. The problem of comparing her to Rein directly is that Rein's design and value is reined in and focused. Aside from Firestrike, Rein has no range to speak of, which allows the weighting of what he does have in his kit to be truly potent in the right range. In comparison, because Orisa has so much in her kit, she doesn't have a sharp edge, and debatably would be overpowered if she did. You can't make her shield amazing because of the fear of establishing a barrier meta problem. You can't make her gun amazing because of its massive range and easily spammable nature. You certainly can't make all of her kit amazing at the same time. That would be like making a jack of all trades, a master of all trades. That would ruin hero, map, and mode interplay entirely. So we have to start looking at her as her own specialized niche hero, instead of comparing her to weighted core tanks like Rein. What direction do we go? Now, despite us arguing for reframing how we as a community see her, are there things you can do to make her better in that niche role? Well, if you remember, Sombra wasn't very good until recently, when they buffed her movement options, specifically Translocator. They enabled her to do her thing, just much more efficiently. Is there an avenue that you could take Orisa down to do the same thing? Well, just for fun's sake, what if you made her ult fire much faster? The reason being, even in areas where you should be afraid of being CC'd into a pit, you can kind of see it coming. If it were quicker and therefore more capable of catching you off guard, she'd actually be genuinely scary at doing that on the right maps. She'd have a bona fide weapon, an edge to exploit. It'd still be a niche one. Not all maps have that kind of geometry right next to where fights have to take place, but it would be much more effective. It'd also be more effective as just a straightforward crowd control too if you could quickly snare a flanker in a relevant way. We think it's the most interesting part of her kit anyway, and would love to see any further developments focused in that area. In conclusion then, Orisa will probably never be another Rein or a direct rival, but she doesn't have to be. She can carve out this very specific little area she's good in, and that will be great without knocking everything else out of balance. Let us know in the comments if you agree with our vision for Orisa, or if you have other ideas for her. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss any of our videos, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in good company. Please check out our Discord, where you can join one of the biggest Discord communities for Overwatch out there. If you want to see us tilt live for your enjoyment, please check out our Twitch channel, which will be linked in the description. And finally, please check out our Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and streams. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time.